Afternoon, folks. What's going on? It's the Earthmaster here, back on this Sunday, January 29th, 2023. It's about 1:17 p.m. here along the West Coast in California. Now, the latest quake shows a 1.9 over here, just off the coast here, it looks like, of Morocco region. There is some activity ramping up overnight and this morning, including areas around the West Coast once again. Also still seeing a pretty good cluster of earthquake activity around the Molucca Sea region. All right, let's go ahead and check out the activity here across the map. Hawaii showing a little bit of uptick as well today, or at least within the last hour. Got a 2.3 coming in. Prior to that, a little bit of further movement around the Pahala area. No major changes, though, to note across the volcanoes currently. Up into Alaska. Looks about as what we seen last night. A little bit of activity across Anchorage area, stretching up towards the Denali region. Now, no major quakes. A quick glance here at the 2.5 map and above shows a handful of earthquakes. Largest going to be a couple threes out there, including one around the southern Yukon Territory of Canada. West Coast area, of course, Northern California. Seen a little bit of activity last night and over the past few days here. We haven't seen anything kick off here overnight or this morning so far, but we'll continue to watch that, monitor that activity for that region for some movement. Also some activity here across the Klamath Falls area of Oregon, 1.4 coming in. Just, it looks like it's just outside of the Mountain Lakes area. Pretty deep, about 13 kilometers here underneath this area. A little bit of movement across the coastal range and also down around the Clear Lake volcanic field, where we're seeing quite a bit of uptick in earthquake activity with the Calpine hydrothermal operations in full swing, it looks like. One earthquake here outside the Bay region, 2.2. Alamo region, southern branch, or the creeping segment here of the San Andreas Fault, looking pretty quiet. There's a little earthquake activity on it from this morning and last night. Looks like a 2.0 and a 1.5. Down south, a little bit of activity in a swarm fashion here across a couple different fault zones here just north of Los Angeles. This is on the Pacific side of the plate boundary. Looks like a couple lower grade ones coming in. Some of that from yesterday, but a little bit of an uptick, it appears, along that area of California and over here around the San Andreas Fault. Looks like a little 0.8 around the Thousand Palms area. No major swarms, though, to take note there in California currently. Let's see what else we got. Yellowstone National Park, not showing anything here on the map, so let's go ahead and check it out here from the site called isthisthingon.org. Pretty cool layout of the Yellowstone seismograph stations here, and doesn't look like there's too much activity here. Looks maybe a couple, little handful of small, very small quakes over the last few hours, but again, nothing major popping off. One earthquake up here in Oklahoma, that one coming in from last night, a little 3.1. Eastern portion of the country, all pretty quiet. And around the Puerto Rico area, the swarm has stopped once again. Seems to be picking up for a little bit, and then it just drops off after a day or so. One earthquake over here around the Dominican Republic area, 4.3, 11 kilometers deep for that earthquake. Still seeing a little bit of activity up around the Puerto Rico Trench as well. South America, nothing showing up here on the globe, or at least on the flat scale model Earth. Verification here looks like only a couple twos down there being listed up on the globe here today, so relatively quiet in that area. Same for about the New Zealand area. I know we've seen some activity kind of ramping up yesterday. Now the USGS is not reporting anything down here currently, but as we've seen on the EMSC model, looks like there were some 4s and 5.1. I believe that is from last night, looking at these color rings, but either way, they should have been listed up there on the USGS map. 2.7 over here around the Java Trench coming in just now within the last, actually it's the most recent quake here. Now, looking at the graph over here, the USGS map only showing 2 earthquakes. Well, no, let's take this back. Almost looks like 2, right? Until you zoom in. Of course, this is the area that's seen that 7-pointer, a couple weeks ago now. Things are still kicking back up as far as aftershock activity goes. Pretty good handful of earthquakes there. Some 4s and 5s kicking up around that region. And a pretty good cluster noted on the earthquake 3D globe as well. Some smaller quakes around Taiwan, and looks like on areas at the northern end of the Java Trench. Still watching this zone for some potential movement. It's been quiet, very quiet recently. All this activity here across the Mediterranean, Turkey area looks like that was from late last night. No further activity to note. And the Atlantic Ocean got 4.8 out here in the mid-Atlantic ridge, it looks like. Going to be right here, 4.9, the USGS is reporting that. A couple different fracture zones out here in the oceanic crust. You can kind of see them stair-stepping. Kind of looks like a stair-step ladder right there. Either way, 4.9. That one coming in just about 9 o'clock this morning. Let's see, what else is there? I think that's about it for that. Tremor map last night. Looks like it came out a little bit late. I don't believe this was updated when I did the update last night. Of course, it was kind of an early update. Either way, 198 epicenters here into the southern end of the Cascadia, Northern California, portions of southern Oregon there. This has been active for a little while here. And I think as long as we're still seeing tremor, it's still a good indicator of some regional stress here along the southern end here of the Cascadia. So we'll watch that here for some potential movement around Northern California. And I think there's always still likelihood when we're experiencing large tremor events in a certain area to have a higher percentage of actually seeing some earthquake activity right smack dab on the Cascadia. So we'll watch that and see how it plays out. Let's see what else. Space weather activity. And then I got to jump off here. I still have some schoolwork I got to catch up on. Pretty calm, pretty clear, pretty green. A lot of greenery out here. Not a whole lot of potential for space weather. Looks like they lowered their threat levels there a little bit more respected levels, because I don't see anything out there that would produce an M flare or an X flare. 80% chance for a C flare. Now we are just below, or right on the C flare line, just barely kind of peeking up here a little bit into some low-grade C flares, but that's just your standard activity there from the sunspots that are currently facing the Earth. And there's a few of them, but none of these look at all like they're going to pose any threat for any major flaring. Looks like a newer sunspot here around the bend, around the eastern, north, and the southeastern limb of the sun. We'll watch that here in the coming days. It doesn't look like much, folks. They look like they've continued to decay here overnight. So again, entering into a little quiet zone of solar activity. Aurora forecast, very minimal. Not a whole lot going on. All right, weather activity here. We picked up 0.6 of an inch of rain here at my place. From a system dropping down out of the north. Some cold air coming behind that too, and winds are supposed to pick up here in Northern California. But notice that system pushing down into Southern California, bringing some further snow and rain for that area. Some lower snow levels. And after that, looks like we have another system coming in towards the 2nd or 3rd of February. And it appears as though that kind of opens the storm door for some, further rainfall and more snow into the west coast. That is good news. Like I say, every little bit helps. We're starting to dry out a little bit there at the top layer of the soil, but now it's all muddy again. A lot of standing water out here once again here in California. All right, I think that's about it. I'm going to get busy, jump on my schoolwork here before I get behind. I think after this week, a lot of stuff here is due right off the first week for my classes, and I think it's to kind of squeeze out the folks that may not really be interested in a class or two And then it kind of weeds out the ones that don't want to be in there, but keeps the ones that do. Because of course, no matter how much I have to do, I'm going to continue it. I'm definitely not going to drop it. Going to continue it here because I believe schooling is very important, and of course, wide areas of certain topics is kind of good to have underneath your belt. So we'll get off that here. We'll get off the computer and go do that real quick. Have a good one, folks. We'll catch you guys a little bit later on. Looks like we had a new member or two overnight. So welcome to the new members. Of course, we'll be doing a drawing here on the 15th of February for our members once again. And yeah, already. Have a good night, guys. We'll catch, or at least a good day. Oh, my brain's a little bit on the crazy side here today. Take care. We'll catch you guys a little bit later tonight.